And the next question is, if you were to attend a farm accident involving a quad bike or any other machinery, what is the protocol that you would take before attending?
Yeah, so in Scotland, Mountain Rescue, or the police have primacy for land-based search and rescue, and that means that anything that's search and rescue orientated is controlled by the police. So we get mobilised by the police. Now, that means if you have made a 999 phone call to the ambulance service, they'll do their thing, and then if they get to a point where they realise they can't do, or they don't have the resources to get to where they need to be, then they'll put a call into the police to mobilise us. So I think if from a farm worker's or a countryside worker's perspective, if you are in a location where you know an ambulance with 2 people in it and a trolley with sort of little wheels can't get to, then it's probably a job where the initial call needs to go to the police via 999 and say, look, I've got a mountain rescue incident, I'm in a remote area, this is what has happened, that sort of thing. From a response perspective, if I receive one of those calls, I think the biggest thing, as I would do with all calls, is think about, you know, the safety aspect. So where am I deploying to? What's the risks? If it's a search, what's around the farm? Is there, you know, is the livestock? If I want to put a search dog into an area, I would want to have a conversation with somebody on the farm about, you know, have you got fields of sheep and lambs and the like. I mean, all the search dogs are stock tested, so they're not going to go off and start, you know, attacking your stock. But still, it could be quite stressful if we put the search dogs in the wrong area. It could be quite stressful on the animals. Are there any tanks, you know, sort of slurry tanks on the farm that we need to be aware of? Is there any sort of hidden dangers, that sort of thing, especially sort of around buildings? So I think it's always safety first, and it's back to that first rule of first aid. You know, you look after yourself, you look after your team, and then you look after the casualty. So I don't think farms are, you know, the most hazardous environments, because generally we'll stay away from buildings, and be restricted. We'll search the more open areas. But certainly I'd be thinking safety all the way through. If it's a quad bike, something like that, has it, is there any sort of fuel spillage or a fire risk or something like that? Is, you know, if it's heavier machinery, are we taking somebody with us who knows how to operate that to switch it off? Because we might have people in the team who know how to do that, but we probably won't. And it's back to sort of leveraging the knowledge that exists in the workforce. So geographical and sort of mechanical and local knowledge in terms of where we need to put people, and how we keep them safe.
As the Borders is a very remote area in parts, and it can be very rugged and hilly. How do farmers assist you in some of the responses that you do, that you carry out and you go to?
Yeah, so it can run from so I suppose the strangest example that I've personally come across is when we were looking for somebody who was missing, and it wasn't the strange. When you think about it, it's absolutely perfectly obvious. But we were setting up search control, and farmer came up and said, don't know if it's of interest, but when I was out working on this side of the valley, I saw the sheep on the other side of the valley move, and they wouldn't normally move like that. And they would normally move like that if there was a person there. And that was great information, because we knew somebody was in this pretty remote place that wasn't connected to the farm or to the estate. So we put a search team there, and it did help. It did turn out that it was the person we were looking for. So that sort of information can be really, really useful. We have had obviously folk want to assist in searches, take a quad out, drive tracks, trails, but even searching out buildings and stuff. Just because you see you're going to do a job or whatever, If you're a farm worker, you might actually have tripped over in a shed or something, and we're looking out sort of 5 kilometers in either direction, and you could be just around the corner. I think clearing out outbuildings and sheds and stuff is a really, really important part of the search as well. I'm always cautious when folk do come up and say, "Hi, I'm Joe Public and I want to help search," because if I say go up there and that person has an accident, then it's kind of on my conscience as well that I've asked somebody who may or may not be properly equipped. And we assume if you're working on a farm lane, you're going to be properly equipped. But the amount of times that we have members of the public come up who are really concerned and want to lend a hand, what we tend to do is ask that person to search pretty sort of benign areas. It might be forest trails, or it might be easy paths along sort of riverbanks, that sort of thing. And even if that person doesn't find them, what it can do is it can help us rule out areas that we don't have to send sort of our members in.
Would you would sort of encourage farmers or individuals that are going, rural workers, gamekeepers, to carry a sort of first aid kit, even if it's not for themselves, and they come across someone that's injured, and if they need to call you guys in, they can assist that person for the time being?
Absolutely. I mean, it's good practice. I think somebody told me you can get away with some cotton wool and a roll of duct tape, but that sounds a bit savage. But I think a first aid kit, if you think about what's likely to happen, well, cut yourself, maybe some entrapment of your fingers, that sort of thing. Personal safety, I think. If you cut your hand, your arm's probably not going to fall off straight away, but you're working in a pretty bacteria-ridden environment. Even if it's just on a gate post or something. So if you got the ability to clean something up and or even help somebody, and if the person's immobile, if you can help clean a wound or cover it and stop it from getting any worse, then that's first aid sort of objective.
So I just would like to thank you for giving us an insight into the Tweed Valley Mountain Rescue and the job that you actually carry out. It's so interesting to find out more of what you actually do than just go out to the hills and pick up people and rescue people. Like the in-depth work that you carry out, and the unique challenges that you have to take. And on behalf of Border Federation and SAYFC, I would just like to thank you very much for taking your time out to come and speak to us and show us what you actually do.
Been an absolute pleasure. No, it's been great talking to you. Hopefully everyone else finds it interesting. I think we've been talking for about 45 minutes or something. So great if everyone's made it this far.